My name is Colton Burton. This is my presentation 1, and I'm doing it over the topic of 3 Mile Island and the effects and after effects it had on nuclear safety. For my comprehensive overview, the 3 Mile Island incident began early in the morning of March 28, 1979, when a failure in the secondary cooling system caused a relief valve to remain stuck open. This allowed a reactor coolant to escape, leading to overheating in the reactor core. Operators were unaware of the valve malfunction, misinterpreted the control panel readings, and turned off the emergency cooling systems. Although there were no immediate deaths or injuries, the event caused a widespread panic and began to be a turning point in the nuclear industry's approach to safety. And through this, you can already see that there's many issues with the equipment and also the operators, if they were not aware, not being able to be aware of what was going on or what was about to go on in the plant. For unsafe acts, conditions, or circumstances, the accident was the result of several unsafe conditions and actions. The stuck open valve caused a coolant loss, while the operator error led to the shutdown of the vital cooling pumps. The control room design was confusing, with poor alarm systems and misleading indicators, which misleading indicators is already a really bad sign because you don't need that from your equipment if you want to run productively and good. Anyways, misleading indicators that contributed to an operator misjudgment. In addition, operator training was inadequate and the plant lacked strong communication and emergency response procedures. Once again, there's another red flag when it talks about the operator training not being good or being so-called inadequate. That also leaves a lot of room for error, and at this point, error happened, and it was really bad. Investigation and cause analysis. Following the event, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or so-called the NRC, at the President's Commission on the Accident at the 3 Mile Island, also known as the Kemeny Commission, conducted investigations. They found that the accident was caused both by mechanical failure and human error. Equipment malfunction combined with poor training, unclear procedures, and miscommunication led to the partial meltdown. The investigation concluded that a stronger safety culture and better system design were needed to prevent similar events in the future. And personally, system design were needed to prevent similar events in the future. When that line comes up, I'm really thinking, okay, yes, it does need to happen, but when is the human malfunction going to be talked about? Because I feel like the human malfunction is really the root of everything, even if the systems malfunction. Like, if you're an operator, you need to know what to do in any kind of situation or in any circumstance. And then, violations of procedures and standards. Investigators determined that plant operators did not fully follow emergency operating procedures during the event. Miscommunication among operators and poor coordination with the management violated standard safety practices. Maintenance records also revealed that some equipment had not been properly tested or inspected. Additionally, regulatory oversight from the NRC before the event had been limited, which contributed to the lack of preparedness. So when this information came out, I was really thinking, okay, maybe it goes deeper than just the operators, because the limit of NRC there, and then some of the equipment not being properly tested or inspected, that goes up to the higher ups, not just from the operators. So it was really just a chain of events that really caused this tragedy to happen. Controls implemented after the incident and why. After the accident, several controls were introduced to prevent future incidents. Operator training programs were overhauled and full-scale simulators were added to help prepare operations for emergency scenarios. Control room layouts were redesigned to provide clear indicators and reduce confusion. The Institute of Nuclear Power Operations, or the INPO, was established to promote safety standards and share best practices across the nuclear industry. Improved communication systems were also put in place to ensure timely responding during emergencies. So, as you can see here, when it comes to the controls implemented, you can see where all the nuclear plants and the people who are in charge of the nuclear plants are really starting to open their eyes and be like, can really be an issue if this keeps happening. So we need to implement something that makes sure this never happens again. And that's why all of these rules and stuff were implemented to make sure that all of this room for error was little or none. Changes to policies and standards. In response to the 3 Mile Island accident, the NRC revised its regulations to emphasize human factors, which is, in my opinion, which is good, because even though the equipment messes up, your human factors are much more important. Emergency preparedness and risk assessment. The emergency planning zone concept was introduced to improve local community safety and evacuation planning. Nuclear plant licensing and inspection processes became stricter, and standards required transparent communication between plants, regulators, and the public during incidents. Which, again, like I said earlier, it goes higher than just the operators. It's the regulators and stuff like that, just to make sure that this margin is little to none when it comes to errors. Evaluation of controls and effectiveness. Over time, evaluation showed that the new controls and policies significantly improved reactor safety and emergency preparedness. Operator errors decreased because of better training and simulation programs. Independent reviews by the NRC and INPO found that the new systems were effective in identifying and managing potential hazards. The nuclear industry developed a much stronger culture of safety and accountability as a result. So, once again, when I look back at all this, the incident was bad, but the eye-opening that came from this incident caused a lot of good, because everything that was implemented from the operators and into the machines were really for the better and good, and now it is less likely to happen again like it did March 28, 1979 in Pennsylvania at the 3 Mile incident. The results of the evaluation. The 3 Mile Island reforms transformed how nuclear facilities operate in the United States. Plants now have multiple layers of safety checks, real-time monitoring systems, and well-trained staff ready to respond to emergencies since the 1979 incident. No major accidents of a similar nature have occurred in the U.S. nuclear power industry. The lessons learned from the 3 Mile Island have also been shared globally, improving safety across the nuclear field, which just backs up what I said in the last slide. Yes, the 1979 incident was bad, but all the eye-openers and how really the U.S. responded to this to make sure everyone was safe has been a lot better, and it's probably saved a lot more people than it hurt at the time. So I think that it was a really good thing that they were able to open their eyes and fix all these issues. Potential for reoccurrence. While today's nuclear plants are much safer, the potential for another accident cannot be completely ruled out, which it can never be ruled out because there's always room for error, and there's always going to be errors as long as there's people and machines, because they're not going to work 100% of the time, no matter what it is, because at the end of the day, nothing can be perfect. Aging infrastructure, human error, and natural disasters could still pose risks if not carefully managed. Continuous improvement in technology, regular maintenance, and updated training programs are essential to ensure that such an incident does not happen again. Ongoing regulatory oversight and public transparency remain critical to maintaining trust and safety. So I feel like there's always a potential for reoccurrence, like I said just a few seconds ago, but with all these safety checks and all these new rules, I think it's a really good thing that they're doing this to try to prevent this from happening, because at the end of the day, this could really be bad if it gets any worse than it did at the time. And for my references, my U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the 3 Mile Island Accident of Summary Report, and International Atomic Energy Agency, the accident at 3 Mile Island, 1980, Walker J.S., the 3 Mile Island, a nuclear crisis and a historical perspective from 2004, U.S. Department of Energy, lessons learned from the 3 Mile Island accident in 1979. So these references help me pull all my information out of everything and make sure that I could get a nice and solid PowerPoint and really feed my personal understanding of how this happened and Even though it was bad, all the eye-opening things to keep this from happening again, and all the lives that it's probably saved since then, since there's been no major incidents. And once again, my name is Colton, and this is my presentation one. Thank you.